Thanks for joining us on this Easter Sunday. I'm Jennifer Meckles.
And I'm Mark Salinger. A nonprofit in Aurora is working with immigrants as they're released from detention and say the last 3 months have been totally new territory as the Trump administration prioritizes mass deportations.
Let's bring in our Angeline McCall with more on this story. Angeline?
In the last 3 years, Jenny and Mark, nonprofit KUSA has helped 18,000 people released from ICE custody. In the past, the majority of those were people that were actually picked up at the border, then transported to Colorado and held at the ICE detention center in Aurora. Now, what they're seeing is more people picked up while living here in the state, as well as people who were living in other states and then transferred to this specific detention facility.
Everybody gets toiletries.
This has been a safe haven after someone's hardest moments in detention.
Like, these are all dignifying items. So these are things that everybody should have.
After spending weeks or months in the Aurora detention facility,
This is a lot of stuff donated by community.
Andrea Loya and her team at nonprofit KUSA are the ones who welcome them after ICE releases them back into the community.
Folks are getting blanket, and they're also getting extra pairs of socks.
A nonprofit consistently present through all kinds of change, including new policies and rules under President Trump.
But essentially, these are right now what we are calling like our Greyhound backpack. Really, honestly, more important, it's now people can have a cup of noodles.
Until a few months ago, people could take planes to their next destination. Now it's bus only. That's just one change, alongside many others.
The number of people being released is way, way lower than what we were seeing.
In January, that number was about 30 people per day.
And essentially, the first week of February, we saw nobody be released. Releases completely stopped, which we didn't know if that was like going to be the norm. It's a hard thing to see those numbers decrease, and it's also now a hard thing to see people who are not only seeking asylum in the States and then serving sentences for that, but also people who have lived in the States for years and are also serving these same detention sentences.
And with a decrease of releases, her concern is an increase in detentions.
For sure, we have seen an increase of folks being detained across the U.S. That's really a lot of what we're seeing on the release side. We've seen way less people being released from showing up to the border seeking asylum.
A website that tracks government agencies found more than 47,000 people in detention at the end of March. Compare that with the numbers from mid-January at around 39,000. People, Andrea says, may be detained despite having TPS or other forms of status.
And so 100% we're detaining more people in community. 100% we're hunting people in community. And we're casting that net, seeing how many people we can check status for.
And with all the changes, they'll adjust.
A lot of different community donations.
Remain steady to help the people who are the ones facing the most change.
And again, it just shows you like how powerful that piece of welcoming becomes.
In most cases, for someone being released from detention here in Aurora, KUSA is their first point of contact. They not only help them find new clothes, as you saw, and get a bag ready as they continue their journey, but they'll also help them with things like a temporary place to stay and helping them get in contact with their families. Angeline McCall, 9 News.
Thank you, Angeline. After a cold and snowy start to our weekend, it really warmed up nicely here in Denver today. Those warm temperatures should stick around into this next week.
Corey Reppenhagen joining us this evening. And Corey, it was a beautiful Easter to get outside and enjoy the beautiful Colorado weather.
It really was. We had plenty of sunshine out there, got those temperatures up into the 60s. A nice night as well. The breezy conditions that we've had have kind of laid down for the moment here as the flags have gone silent, but the wind will be back tomorrow. Breezy once again. Here's the current temperatures. We're in the 50s here at Spear and Logan, out at DIA, 49, 48 down in Centennial. Here's the Monday forecast for Denver. So we'll start out a little bit warmer than yesterday, the last couple of days. 37 degrees for a low. We'll see quite a bit of sunshine going through the day here, getting those temperatures up into the 70s. So we are also watching for some elevated fire danger because of the fire weather conditions, mostly out on the eastern plains, but it'll be breezy and dry here on the Front Range as well. We'll carry these 70-degree temperatures all the way through the middle of the week, and our next storm system is coming in on Thursday, and it looks like we got a pretty good chance to see some widespread afternoon thunderstorms. I'll have more information coming up on those in the full forecast just a few minutes away from here.
Thank you. Adams County Sheriff's deputies have arrested 3 people today after a drive-by shooting that injured 1 person. Happened a little after 2 o'clock this afternoon on Counter Drive. That's just north of 104th near I-76. The Adams County Sheriff's Office says 1 person went to the hospital with gunshot wounds. We do not know how they're doing tonight. The Sheriff's Office says everybody believed to be involved is now in custody, and they do not believe there's a threat to the public.
Wheat Ridge police say they've arrested 1 person in connection to a homicide this afternoon. Police say it happened around 3:30 on Sheridan near 39th Avenue. That's close to the Tin Supers there in Wheat Ridge. They didn't have a ton of details on exactly what happened, but they did say that the homicide happened in the road. Sheridan was shut down for hours today in both directions as police investigated, reopened just before 8:30.
An update tonight to a story we first brought you this morning. Denver police say the 2 people killed in a crash last night in northwest Denver were pedestrians. They were not riding scooters, as police first reported. Now, this happened just before 10 o'clock last night on West 14th Avenue and Federal. Denver police initially said the 2 people were riding a stand-up electric scooter when the driver of a car hit them. Well, police have clarified today the victims were actually on foot. Police say the driver did stay on the scene, and now DPD is investigating what happened.
AmeriCorps National Civilian Community Corps members are trying to figure out their next steps after the Trump administration caused an abrupt exit from their program recently. Last week, AmeriCorps notified teams that their service was ended early due to cuts by Elon Musk and Doge. Members say the announcement came as a shock and there was little time to process exactly what was going on. Mary Kate Sweeney says she'll never forget the opportunities that AmeriCorps gave her.
I'm so happy that I did, even though our time was cut short. And I'm mad that, our country is not making national service a priority when I feel like it's just such a great program that benefits Americans and the people that do it.
So Sweeney says she's now applied to work at the local grocery store and movie theater until she goes to college later this year. She says what's in front of her isn't obviously as cool as traveling the world and giving back to her community. So she's also looking to volunteer and different opportunities that would also help her.
Advocates say it is critical for people around Colorado to know if they turn up to an emergency room, they will be treated regardless of whether they can pay or not, or if they need an abortion to save their life. State
lawmakers modeled a new bill here in Colorado after a federal law that requires the same thing and is catching a lot of heat after Roe v. Wade, after Roe was overturned. 9 News reporter Rachel Krause spoke to a woman who says she needed a law like this after major complications following childbirth.
Yeah, Emily Sheridan Mahoney is sharing her story in hopes that if this bill becomes law, women will know that they can turn to emergency rooms for help and that emergency rooms will be required to provide it.
For many women, they hope the journey to become a mother is smooth. For Emily Sheridan Mahoney, her twins' birth story was far from it.
It's bumpy. It's quite bumpy.
Back in January of 2022, Emily had gone to the hospital after seeing fireflies in her vision.
I went in just to get it checked, and it turned out that I had severe preeclampsia. And so I had to get an emergency C-section that day. I had an issue where I hemorrhaged after something got missed when they did the C-section during closing. And so things came open that should not have.
Emily felt she needed an ER, but doctors wouldn't move her.
They left me bleeding for about 12 hours. When my husband got overwhelmed, he called my mother, who was a paramedic. And when she walked in, they were cleaning blood up off the floor. And it took them another 8 hours or so to finally get me into surgery to do an emergency closure.
After a week at home, Emily was back at the hospital again with a high fever and heart rate. Again, she says she was stopped from the ER.
We were told to go back to labor and delivery, and that the ER couldn't handle things like this.
Emily says it took weeks, multiple surgeries, and eventually a switch to an out-of-network doctor altogether to get her health back on track. She still doesn't understand why her pleas to go to the ER were ignored.
I don't think that they dealt with it well at all.
It's important for everybody in Colorado because everybody deserves consistent, high-quality medical care regardless of the emergency room they go to.
Kira Hatton with Cobalt says Colorado lawmakers are now considering legislation that would require hospitals care for patients that turn up to the ER, regardless of whether they can pay, if they're undocumented, or if they're pregnant and in need of an abortion to save the mom's life. Essentially, a state version of the federal law EMTALA, whose enforcement nationally when it comes to abortion care has been hotly hotly contested in the years post-Roe. Hatton says this is needed.
There are many cases of patients needing to be transported from one hospital to another because the hospital is not comfortable performing the procedure that is required to treat the patient. And that works really pretty well in metropolitan areas, but in areas where it's more rural, we find patients are having to travel many hours to get to a facility where they can get the treatment they need in a timely fashion.
Emily hopes this legislation leads to a better outcome for the next woman. It's why she testified in favor.
When you're lying in a hospital bed, it becomes really hard really fast about, how to disagree, how to get the care you need, and what to do in these situations where minutes matter. There's still gaps, and we still have a long way to go.
Advocates say the bill has gotten pushback, and some Republicans have voted against the measure in committee. We reached out to those Senate Republicans about their no vote. They declined to comment. The bill will come to the Senate floor this Tuesday. Rachel Krause, 9 News.
Today marks 26 years since a tragic day that Coloradans will never forget.
13 people were killed in a school shooting at Columbine High School, 12 students and 1 teacher. And just this year, we lost another victim. Anne-Marie Hochhalter died in February. Coroner says her death was the result of the injuries that she suffered 26 years ago. She was shot twice and paralyzed from the waist down. Now, 26 years later, we remember her and pay tribute to the 13 people who died back in 1999.